with First Minister Ellen Morgan losing her own seat in the Senate. Prime Minister Starmer has attempted a reset speech, admitting that he had spent too much time talking about what he was doing and not enough time explaining why, as the speech fell flat. Allies of Health Secretary Wes Streeting were among those calling on Prime Minister to go swiftly, fueling speculation that Streeting could soon launch a formal leadership challenge. Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham is also being touted as a leadership rival, though he cannot stand unless allowed back into the parliament as an MP, while Prime Minister Starmer has insisted that he will not walk away as his grip on power is slipping by the hour. Meanwhile, Foreign Secretary David Lammy and Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood, two of the most senior members of Starmer's own cabinet, have told the Prime Minister Starmer to consider setting out a clear timeline for his departure. Foreign Minister Yvette Cooper has also told Prime Minister Starmer that he should oversee an orderly transition of power. 4 government aides have already resigned, including Melanie Ward, a parliamentary private secretary to Lammy himself, all calling for a new leadership. Now we welcome Mr. Mark Sutherland. He's a geopolitical commentator, joins us live from South Carolina. Thank you very much, Mr. Sutherland, for joining us. Now, looking at this situation, what more can you tell us? And is this, are we seeing a shift in UK's government from Labour Party to other parties now?
Well, Suma, good to be with you. Let's just go back to the 4th of July 2024, when there was an election after Rishi Sunak deciding that he really didn't want to be a prime minister that may end up seeing a serious war within Europe. So it was handed over to the Labour Party, where 40% of people, nearly 40% of people that were entitled to vote, decided not to vote because they were completely and utterly disillusioned with the political system within the UK. Then this liberal, progressive, Fabian communist group called the Labour Party were then elected in, and the fact that they have no idea of actually how to run the economics of the UK whatsoever. There's no business experience whatsoever around the cabinet table, and under various scandals, from appointing Mandelson as the ambassador to America, to the inheritance tax that they put on the farmers, the attack on independent schools, and the fact that national insurance and other taxes are continuing to rise and go through the roof. There's no economic growth whatsoever to even think about, to even report on. And the most important thing is that you have a prime minister as a cabinet that are dying to go back in, take us back into Europe without, after the British public in 2016, 17,410,752 people, with a majority of over 1 million, decided to leave the European Union. That was a democratic vote that was given to the people of the United Kingdom, and it was the biggest turnout in recorded history in regard to a political vote in the UK history. The present government now, and the previous governments of the UK from 2016, had stalled our Brexit leaving. Technically, yes, we have left, even though people want to give us the impression that we haven't. This government wants to take us back in without asking the British people to reverse that mandate. We supposedly are a democracy, but the UK feels, and I understand that we have been living under tyranny, and we are now living under the most disliked prime minister in living history, and the most disliked government. So that is where we are at. They have no idea, as I say, how to run a country. They want us back into the EU because they would like all that paperwork to come down, and they'll leave it to 27 commissioners to tell them what to do. Also, a government that's so obsessed with solar panels and wind farms, and yes, the previous governments have been as well. The fact that with this oil crisis, as Suma we could be have our own oil independent. It's called the North Sea. The fact that they are very slow to want to give out new drilling license. They've shut the oil refinery in Monmouth. They've then blown up other coal-fired power stations, literally with dynamite. This is profoundly irresponsible. But the other big thing is that they've also seen constant illegal immigration come over the channel, 70,000 plus since this government then came about. And they decide that they do not want to do anything about it. They're not defending the borders of a country, which is the mandate that they're given. But that is also a tip and a sign to the fact that we go back into the European Union. Assuming you ask an important question, there has been a two-party system within the country. It would either go from Labour or go to Conservatives. We haven't got time to discuss the history of the Fabian Society and why the Labour Party has turned it back on the working class of the United Kingdom,
so
which it then has. But over to you.
So, Mr. Sutherland, if another person like Mr. Streeting or Andy Burnham were to challenge the leadership, who would be better positioned to rebuild Labour's public trust and electoral strength? Can it be even possible?
Well, the other big issue is that both of those face, particularly Burnham, is the whole discussion of the grooming gangs and the lack of investigation into that. After many inquiries and actually facing the awful reality of that situation. Burnham has many questions, in some people's opinion, to ask in regard to that issue around being Mayor of Manchester. The big issue is this. These people have to ask themselves a very serious question. Do they actually want to see the prosperity and to see the UK prosper? My reply to that would be that none of them do. Within the Labour Party. It's about power for power's sake within an ideology of a socialist Fabian construct. I mean, if someone's talking about David Lammy then being Prime Minister of this country, the UK, then I'm sorry, but is better than any other cartoon book that I could actually read. These people are not qualified to do anything like that, in my personal opinion, and have actually fallen into some kind of leading the UK. If you look at Lammy's particular comments on Trump, then that makes a very interesting read. You asked this. Assume there are no clear statesman-like figures within the Labour Party, in my humble opinion, or frankly, you could even argue within the whole of Westminster, bar a few people. This is how we are really at the scraping, in my humble opinion, the bottom of the barrel in regard to seeing people lead our country within the Labour Party. So they could put a number of names forward, and I could also then match them in regard to comments that I would then make against them. The number one thing is, as far as I'm concerned, there was no one qualified. We need to see economic growth in our country, like other Western countries who also suffer from the socialist delusion. This is where we are at, Asuma.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sutherland, for sharing that deep insight. Please do stay with us as we'll come back to you. Now, moving the